The father's justice. I was standing in my kitchen, half awake, waiting for the coffee to drip, when I heard the garbage disposal turn on. Nothing strange about that, except it was far too early, and Ashley was never up at this hour. Then came the sound that made my chest tighten. Sharp, violent, unmistakable. Ceramic, shattering, against spinning metal blades. I didn't think. I ran. My hand slammed the switch, the grinding stopped, and for a moment, the house fell into a silence so heavy it felt unnatural. I grabbed a flashlight, leaned over the sink, and pointed the beam down into the drain. White fragments, mixed with coffee grounds, crushed eggshells, and something else. Delicate, hand-painted roses. My breath caught in my throat. No. That wasn't just any mug. That was Linda's. The one she bought on our 25th anniversary trip to Maine. The one she refused to put in the dishwasher. The one she held every single morning, even when her hands started shaking near the end. 8 years of quiet mornings. Gone. In seconds. Oh, Hank, I'm so sorry. Ashley's voice floated in from behind me. Soft. Careful. Almost rehearsed. I turned slowly, still holding the flashlight, like I needed proof of what I'd just seen. She stood there in her robe, hair slightly messy, face arranged into that familiar expression of concern she had perfected over the past months. It just slipped. You know how clumsy I am in the mornings. Slipped. I looked back into the drain, at the shattered pieces of something that had survived. Illness, grief, time, itself. And she called it something disposable. It was just old junk, right? Old junk. The words didn't sound cruel, not on the surface. But something about the way she said them, the ease, the dismissal, sent a quiet chill through me. Because that mug wasn't just porcelain. It was a memory. It was routine. It was the last piece of a life I had built with my wife, still sitting exactly where she had left it. And now, it was gone. I straightened up slowly, my heart no longer racing, but sinking. Ashley kept talking, filling the silence with gentle explanations, practical suggestions, newer mugs, fresh starts. The kind of words that sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't just a broken cup. It was the first thing I had actually noticed. In a house where, piece by piece, something else had already been disappearing. Not objects, not clutter, but her. Linda, her presence, her memory, her place in this home. Erased, quietly, carefully, one reasonable decision at a time. And somehow, I had let it happen. At first, nothing felt wrong. In fact, if you had asked me back then, I would have said Ashley was helping. That's how it started. Not with control, not with force, but with small, reasonable changes. The kind no one argues with. Hank, your Wi-Fi password is too simple. Let me fix that for you. It made sense. Security matters. Especially these days. So I nodded and handed it over. A day later, the kitchen changed. Not dramatically, not in a way that screamed intrusion, just reorganized. Utensils moved, cabinets relabeled, pantry items sorted into neat containers. It's more efficient this way. You won't have to look for things anymore. And she smiled, like she had done me a favor. Maybe she had. At least, that's what I told myself. Then the garage. Linda's gardening tools. The ones she had arranged with care over decades. Shifted, boxed, pushed aside. We need space. Just temporarily. Temporarily. That word. It sounds harmless, doesn't it? Temporary never feels like loss, until it quietly becomes permanent. By the second month, Ashley wasn't just suggesting changes. She was implementing them. I set up online banking for you. Paper statements are outdated. It's better for the environment. It's easier for you. Always framed as something for me. Always wrapped in logic, efficiency, convenience. And every time I hesitated, Kevin would step in. Dad, she's just trying to help. This is what she does. Marketing, organization, optimization. Big words, clean words, words that don't sound like control. So I let it continue. The cable provider changed. The pharmacy changed. Even the way bills were paid shifted quietly into systems I didn't fully understand. Ashley would sit at the table, laptop open, speaking in calm, confident tones. I've got everything handled. You don't need to worry about this anymore. And I wanted to believe her. Because after Linda passed, the silence in that house had been unbearable. And now, someone was filling it. Someone was taking initiative, bringing structure, movement, purpose. It felt like relief. But relief can be deceptive. Because what I didn't notice, not at first, was what I was losing in exchange. Small things, easy to ignore. My mail stopped arriving directly to me. Oh, I redirected it, so I can help organize everything. Phone calls from old friends became less frequent. Hank's resting. I'll tell him you called. But somehow, those messages never reached me. Appointments, reminders, decisions, all passed through her first, like a filter, like a gatekeeper, and every explanation made sense on its own. That was the brilliance of it. No single change felt wrong. No single moment felt like a boundary had been crossed. It was only when you stepped back, only when you looked at the pattern, that something darker began to take shape. Because this wasn't chaos. It was structured, carefully built, carefully justified, carefully executed. A system where I slowly stopped being the one in control of my own home, my own life. And the most unsettling part, had I agreed to every step of it? Not because I was weak, not because I didn't care, but because each change came wrapped in something impossible to argue with. Reason. And sometimes, the most dangerous manipulation doesn't feel like manipulation at all. At first, I thought it was just clutter being cleared. That's what Ashley called it, decluttering, refreshing the space, making things easier to maintain. Reasonable words, clean words, words that don't sound like loss. But then, I started noticing what was actually disappearing. Not just objects, but pieces of her. Linda. It began with the small things, the things no one else would notice. The scarf she used to drape over the back of her chair. Gone. Oh, I put it away. It looked a little worn. Worn. That scarf had been with us for years, through winters, through quiet mornings, through nights when she couldn't sleep and would sit there, wrapped in it, just breathing. Then her books, stacked neatly on the nightstand for years, always in the same order, always within reach. One day, the table was empty. I boxed them up. It makes the room feel less crowded. Less crowded. The room didn't feel lighter. It felt hollow, like something had been pulled out of it, something that couldn't be replaced. The garden was next. Linda's garden. Her pride. Her sanctuary. Every plant had a story. Every corner had intention. Ashley stood there one afternoon, hands on her hips, scanning it like a project. It's a bit overgrown. We should simplify it, make it easier to manage. Simplify. Within days, sections were cleared, flowers replaced, patterns erased. Order replaced memory. Efficiency replaced meaning. And I stood there, watching it happen, telling myself it was practical, that it was necessary, that Linda wouldn't mind. But deep down, I knew she would, because Linda didn't just arrange things. She left herself in them, in the way the sunlight hit the living room at a certain hour, because she had chosen that exact position for the couch. In the kitchen drawers, where everything had its place, not for efficiency, but for comfort. In the small imperfections, the things that didn't need fixing because they weren't broken. They were hers, and one by one, those imperfections were being corrected, adjusted, improved, until there was nothing left that felt like her. Ashley would say it gently, always gently. "Hank, holding on to all of this, it's not healthy." End quote. Linda wouldn't want you stuck in the past. And maybe, part of me wanted to believe that. Because letting go sounds like healing. When it's your choice. But this wasn't letting go. This was removal. Careful, deliberate, disguised as care. The house began to look different. Cleaner. Brighter. More modern. And yet, colder. Quieter. In a way that had nothing to do with sound. I would walk from room to room, searching for something I couldn't name. A trace. A feeling. A reminder that she had been here. And each time, there was less to find. Until one morning, standing in that kitchen, staring at the empty space where her favorite mug used to sit, it finally became clear. Ashley wasn't just changing the house. She was rewriting it. And in her version, Linda had never existed. At some point, without any announcement, the house stopped feeling like a home and started feeling like a system. Not a prison, not in any obvious way, but something quieter, tighter, controlled. It began with the mail. At first, I didn't question it. "Hank, I set up forwarding. It'll be easier if I organize everything for you." Easier. That word again. Days passed, then weeks, and I realized something strange. I wasn't opening my own mail anymore. Bills, statements, letters from old friends, they all went through Ashley first. "I'll go over everything with you at the end of the month." She said it casually, confidently, but the end of the month never came, or if it did, it passed without discussion. I would ask sometimes, gently, "Did anything important come in today?" And she would smile. That same calm, reassuring smile. "Nothing you need to worry about." Nothing. Such a simple word, for something that slowly erased my connection to the outside world. Then the phone calls. At first, it was a coincidence. Missed calls, messages I forgot to return. But then patterns started forming. Friends I hadn't heard from in weeks. Neighbors who stopped dropping by. When I asked, Ashley always had an answer. "They called earlier. You were resting. They said it wasn't urgent. I'll remind you later." But later never came. And over time, the phone stopped ringing altogether. Silence replaced voices. Not the peaceful kind. The isolating kind. The kind that makes you question whether anyone is still out there. Even Kevin, my own son, started echoing her. "Dad, you don't need all that stress. Just let Ashley handle it." Handle it. Manage it. Control it. Different words, same meaning. Then came the finances. The part I should have noticed sooner. Ashley sat me down one afternoon, laptop open, spreadsheets glowing on the screen. "Hank, you shouldn't have to deal with all this paperwork. It's confusing. It's outdated. Let me streamline everything for you." Streamline. Another clean word. Another quiet shift. Paper statements disappeared. Accounts moved online. Passwords changed, for security. And every time I hesitated, she had a reason ready. A logical explanation. A better system. Something more efficient. Until one day, I realized I couldn't access my own accounts without asking her. I remember standing there, in my own house, holding a piece of paper, trying to recall a password that no longer belonged to me. And for the first time, a thought crept in. When did this stop being mine? Not just the account, but the control. Because that's how it works, doesn't it? Not all at once. Not in a way you can point to and say, "That's the moment." It happens slowly, quietly, one permission at a time. One decision you hand over because it feels easier. Until one day, you look around and realize you're no longer the one making decisions at all. I still lived in that house. I still walked the same floors, sat in the same chair, slept in the same bed. But everything that connected me to the world outside those walls had been filtered, managed, reduced, until there was only one voice left. Ashley's. And the most unsettling part wasn't the control itself. It was how invisible it had been. Because there were no locked doors, no raised voices, no obvious threats. Just silence, carefully constructed, until it felt like there was nowhere else to go. And that's when the realization finally settled in. Heavy, undeniable. I wasn't just being helped. I was being contained. That evening, they sat across from me as they had rehearsed it. Kevin on my left, quiet, uneasy, avoiding my eyes. Ashley on my right, composed, prepared, a folder resting neatly in her hands. "Hank, we've been thinking about what's best for you." There it was again. That phrase, "what's best for you?" It always sounds like care, even when it isn't. I didn't respond. I just watched her. The way she leaned forward slightly. The way her voice softened, measured, controlled. "You've been struggling with the house, the maintenance, the financial side of things." Struggling. I almost said something, but she kept going, not giving space for interruption. "And we think you might be happier somewhere that takes all of that pressure away." She opened the folder. Glossy pages slid across the table, smiling faces, green gardens, elderly couples laughing in perfectly staged sunlight. Sunset Manor. It's one of the best retirement communities in the area. Retirement community. The words landed slowly, but heavily. Like something final. They handle everything. Meals, housekeeping, medical support, social activities. Her finger traced the images. Like she was selling me a vacation. "You wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore." I finally spoke. "How much?" She didn't hesitate. 25,000 entry fee, and about 4,800 a month. The numbers echoed in my head, louder than her voice. 4,800. Every month. That's 57,000 a year. I did the math, instinctively, the way I had done for decades. 5 years. Maybe 6, if I stretched it. Then what? Silence. I looked at Kevin. He shifted, uncomfortable, but said nothing. Ashley filled the gap, smoothly. "You could sell this house. It's worth at least 340,000. Sell the house. Do not maintain it. Do not preserve it. Sell it. After covering the costs, you'd still have a good amount left for emergencies." Emergencies. Or control. "Who manages that money?" I asked. "This time," Kevin answered. "Ashley's been learning financial planning. She could handle it for you." Handle it. Of course. Everything. Handled. Everything. Filtered. Managed. Owned. I leaned back, slowly, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Because suddenly, the pieces aligned, the changes, the isolation, the control over accounts, over communication, over access. This wasn't random. It was preparation. A system being built, step by step, leading to this moment. Get me out of the house. Sell the property. Control the remaining funds. And position themselves as the gatekeepers of everything I had left. Ashley kept talking, calm, persuasive, almost gentle. "Hank, this isn't about taking anything from you. It's about making sure you're safe, comfortable, taken care of. Taken care of. By removing me from my own life. By placing me somewhere where I would have no control, no independence, no say." And the worst part was how reasonable it all sounded. If you didn't look too closely, if you didn't question the numbers, the timeline, the outcome, because on the surface, it was care. But underneath, it was math. Cold, precise, calculated. I saw it then, not as a suggestion, but as a plan, a financial equation, where I was the variable, and my assets were the solution. Ashley leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. We should at least put your name down. There's a waiting list. Urgency. Another tactic. Create pressure. Limit time. Reduce doubt. I nodded slowly. I need to think about it. Of course, she smiled. But her eyes, for just a fraction of a second, hardened. Because she thought she had already won. Because every step leading here had gone exactly as planned. And for a moment, I let her believe that. But inside, something had shifted. The confusion was gone. The doubt, gone. All that remained was clarity. Because this wasn't about my comfort. It wasn't about my safety. It wasn't even about family. This was about control. About ownership. About taking everything I had built and reducing it to numbers on a page. And for the first time since this all began, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was watching, calculating, and quietly preparing to fight back. That night, I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat in the workshop, the only place in the house that still felt untouched, still felt like ours. Linda had helped me set it up years ago, every tool exactly where it should be, not for efficiency, but for comfort. I ran my hand along the workbench, over the faint ring left by her coffee cup, mornings we never thought would end. And for the first time in months, I stopped listening to Ashley's voice in my head and started listening to Linda's. It was quiet at first, just fragments, memories, the way she used to pause before saying something important. Then something pulled me upstairs. Not logic. Instinct. I walked into the bedroom, opened the jewelry box I hadn't touched in years. Inside, everything was exactly as she had left it. The pearl necklace, the small earrings she wore on Sundays, and beneath them, a key. Small, ordinary, almost forgotten. The safe deposit box. I stared at it for a long moment, feeling something tighten in my chest. Linda had insisted on that box. For things that matter. Things we don't want anyone else touching. At the time, I thought it was just her being careful. Now, it felt like something else. The next morning, I drove to the bank. The world outside looked normal. People moving, cars passing, life continuing, as if nothing had changed. But inside me, everything had. Margaret recognized me immediately, her expression softening with something close to sympathy. It's been a while, Hank. I nodded, unable to find the right words. I need to access the box. The room they led me to was small, quiet, sealed off from everything else. I sat down, hands steady, heart not. The box opened with a soft click. Inside, documents, exactly where they should be. House deed, in my name. Insurance policies. Cash, untouched. Proof that at least some things were still mine. But then, an envelope. Manila. Simple. With my name written in Linda's handwriting. My fingers hesitated. Because I already knew. This wasn't something she wrote casually. I opened it slowly. My dearest Hank. Her voice, not just in memory now, but in words, right in front of me. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And you're probably trying to carry everything alone. My throat tightened. That was me. Exactly me. I know you, and I know how you love. Deeply, completely, without question. A tear slipped before I could stop it. But you need to be careful, because not everyone who comes close comes with the same heart. The room felt smaller, colder. Some people will see your kindness, your loneliness, and mistake it for weakness. I stopped breathing, because suddenly, everything Ashley had done, every reasonable decision, every step, shifted, not as help, but as a strategy. Linda had known. Somehow, she had seen something, felt something, long before I ever could. Trust your instincts, Hank. Her words, steady, certain, like she was standing right beside me. You are stronger and smarter than they think. Then, I closed my eyes, gripping the letter, because for months, I had doubted myself, second-guessed every discomfort, every suspicion, every quiet alarm inside me. But now, there was no doubt left. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't overthinking. This was the truth. Clear, undeniable, written in the only voice I trusted completely. I folded the letter carefully, holding it for just a second longer than necessary. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not grief, not fear. Resolve. Because Linda hadn't just left me memories. She had left me a warning. And I had finally heard it. Loud and clear. I drove home with the letter still in my pocket. But something inside me had already changed. For months, I had been reacting. Now, I was observing. Carefully, quietly. The way I used to when a claim didn't quite add up. 30 years in insurance, you learn one thing above all else. Fraud never announces itself. It hides in patterns. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. I sat down at my desk, pulled out a legal pad, and began writing. Every change Ashley had made, every service she had optimized, every call that never reached me, every letter I never opened. At first, it looked like noise, random adjustments, scattered decisions. But then, the structure began to appear. Mail redirected, communication filtered, finances centralized, isolation complete. I circled the last word, slowly, because that was the objective. Not helpful. Control. I turned to the computer. Ashley had set everything up, passwords changed, accounts secured. But she made one mistake. People always do. They choose what feels familiar. I clicked the password hint. Kevin's birthday. I tried it once. The screen opened. Just like that. No resistance, no warning. As if the system itself had been waiting for me to look. The numbers hit me first. My checking account, 12,400. I leaned back, frowning. That wasn't right. Not even close. I knew my balance. I tracked it mentally. Always had. It should have been closer to 28. I printed the statements, page after page, sliding out with a mechanical rhythm that felt almost accusatory. Then I started reading. Small withdrawals, at first. 500. 300. Labeled household expenses. Reasonable. Invisible. Easy to ignore. Then the larger ones. 2,200. Home improvement. 1,800. Emergency repair. 3,400. Family medical. I paused. Medical? Whose? There had been no emergencies. No repairs. No discussions. Every transaction told the same story. Authorized. Justified. But never. Actually, approved. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I opened the 401 account. 43,000. My hand tightened on the mouse. It should have been 67. 23,000. Gone. Withdrawn under hardship. Hardship I had never declared. Documents appeared on the screen. Authorization forms. Signatures. My signature. Or something that looked like it. Close enough to pass, at a glance. But not close enough to fool someone who had spent decades analyzing details. The angle was off. The pressure inconsistent. Subtle, but undeniable. Forged. I printed everything. Stack after stack, building a timeline, turning suspicion into structure. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because financial records tell you what happened, but not always. How? That answer was still upstairs. I moved carefully, listening, making sure the house was empty. Ashley's room. I hesitated at the doorway, just for a second, then stepped in. The air felt different, controlled, curated, like everything in her world. I opened the dresser, slow, deliberate. And there it was. A manila folder. Financial planning. The label almost made me laugh. Inside, everything. My bank statements. Copied. Retirement accounts. Documented. Organized. Categorized. Studied. Not helpful. Surveillance. Then, legal documents. Power of attorney forms. Already prepared. Already filled. With notes describing me as experiencing cognitive decline. I exhaled slowly. So that was the narrative. Make me seem incapable. Take control. Legally. Then the property documents. Transfer of ownership. Partial inclusion of her name. Estate planning. On paper. Asset capture. In reality. And at the bottom, a notebook. Her handwriting. Clean. Precise. Calculations. House value, $340,000. Retirement costs, broken down month by month. 5 years, until depletion. And then, a single line. K&A reserve, $80K. Kevin and Ashley. My house, my savings, converted into their future. I stood there, holding the notebook, feeling the last piece fall into place. Because this wasn't chaos. It wasn't desperation. It was designed, layered, patient, deliberate. A full system, built to isolate, control, extract, and leave nothing behind. I placed everything back exactly as I found it. No disturbance, no trace. Because now, I didn't just suspect, I knew. And when you know, the game changes. You stop reacting. You start building a case. And for the first time since this began, I wasn't the one being managed anymore. I was the one watching, waiting, and preparing to expose everything. I didn't confront her that night. Not yet. Because anger, loud, immediate, is exactly what people like Ashley expect. What they're prepared for. What they can twist. Redirect. Control. No. If I were going to stop this, I had to do it properly. Quietly, methodically, the way I had handled every serious case in my career. I picked up the phone, dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Charlie Williams. He answered on the third ring, voice steady, familiar. Hank, it's been a while. I didn't waste time. I think my daughter-in-law is trying to steal everything from me. Silence. Just for a second. Then his tone shifted. Tell me everything. I did. Every detail, every pattern, every number that didn't add up. He didn't interrupt. Didn't question. Just listened, the way good lawyers do, the way good investigators always have. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. Hank, what you're describing, that's textbook elder financial abuse. The words landed heavy, but not surprising. I thought so. We can stop it, but we need evidence. Clean, documented, undeniable. I looked at the stacks of paper in front of me. I have that. Not enough. He paused. We need intent. On record, in her own words. That was the missing piece. Not suspicion. Not documents. Confession. How? I asked. Controlled exposure. His voice was calm, precise. You let her believe the plan is working. You guide the conversation, and you record everything. Record. Simple word. Dangerous implications. I agreed. The next 2 days, I became someone else. Not passive. Not confused. Careful. I moved through the house like nothing had changed. Like I was still under her system. Still dependent. Still unaware. Ashley relaxed. That was the first sign. Her tone, lighter. More confident. Her movements, less guarded. Predators always relax when they think the outcome is guaranteed. She mentioned the retirement home again, casually, as if it was already decided. I scheduled a visit, just to take a look. Just to take a look. I nodded. Sounds good. No resistance. No suspicion. Exactly what she wanted to see. Inside, I was mapping everything. Timing. Positioning. Words. Charlie had been clear. You don't accuse. You let her explain. The day of the meeting, I prepared carefully. The recorder was small, almost weightless, taped inside my shirt pocket. Invisible. Silent. But ready. Ashley had arranged for a representative from the retirement community to visit. Perfect. An audience. A situation where she would feel the need to justify, to present, to convince. We sat in the living room, the same room where Linda used to read in the afternoons, where sunlight used to feel warm, natural. No, it felt like a stage. Ashley took the lead immediately. Of course she did. She always spoke first, framed the narrative, controlled the perception. Hank has been struggling with managing the house, the finances, daily tasks. Struggling. I let the word hang. Didn't react. Didn't correct. Because this wasn't the moment. Not yet. The representative nodded, sympathetic, unaware of the truth behind the performance. Ashley continued, building the story, layer by layer. Confusion. Dependence. Need for care. A carefully constructed version of me. One that justified everything she had already planned. I watched her. Every word. Every pause. Every slight shift in tone. And for the first time, I wasn't being pulled into it. I was studying it. Waiting. Because tension isn't about noise. It's about timing. And I knew. The moment was coming. The point where the mask slips. Just enough. For the truth to step through. All I had to do, I let her talk. The moment didn't arrive with a shout. It arrived, quietly, as everything else had. Could you excuse us for a minute? I turned to the representative, voice calm, steady. She nodded, stepping outside, unaware she was leaving behind something far more important than a sales conversation. The door clicked shut. Silence. Just me and Ashley. I reached under the chair, slowly, and pulled out the printed statements. Real ones. Not the polished versions she had prepared. I placed them on the table, between us. Something doesn't match. Her smile held, for half a second longer than it should have. Then, a flicker. What do you mean? My checking account, $12,400. I tapped the paper. Not 28. My retirement, 43,000. Another tap. Not 67. The room shifted. Not physically, but something in the air tightened. Ashley straightened, her tone sharpening, just slightly. Hank, you're confused. Those are old records. I shook my head slowly. No. I leaned forward, just enough. These are from yesterday. And then, I asked the question. The one she hadn't prepared for. Where is the missing money? Silence. Real silence, this time. Not controlled, not managed. Uncomfortable. Her eyes moved, calculating, searching for an angle. You authorized those expenses. We talked about all of it. Did we? My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Show me the receipts. A pause. Longer this time. You can't expect me to keep every receipt from months ago. There it was. The first crack. I reached into my pocket, pressed the button. A soft click, barely audible. Recording. Then explain it to me. I held her gaze. Explain how $23,000 disappeared from my accounts. Her composure broke. Not all at once, but in fragments. Hank, you don't understand how much Kevin and I sacrificed for you. The words came faster now, less polished, more desperate. We gave up our lives, our careers, everything to take care of you. Care. That word again. Only now, it sounded different. Stripped. Raw. So you took my money? It's not taking... Her voice snapped, sharper now, no longer gentle. It's contributing to the family, to this household. Family. I let the word sit there, heavy, exposed. And the retirement home? I asked it softly, almost casually. That's for your benefit. Her eyes locked onto mine. You'll be safe, comfortable, and once the house is sold, there it was. There will be enough for everyone. Everyone. I repeated it in my head, because now it was clear, crystal clear. Not a suggestion, not misunderstanding. Intent. Documented. Spoken. Recorded. I leaned back, slowly, the tension draining from my shoulders. Not relief. Resolution. Because it was over. You have 24 hours. My voice was quiet, but final. To pack your things and leave my house. Her face went pale. You can't do that. We live here. No. I shook my head. You stayed here. Past tense. She opened her mouth, searching for something, anything. But there was nothing left. No logic. No justification. No mask. Just truth. Kevin walked in later, confusion written across his face, his world about to collapse. I showed him everything. The statements. The documents. The recording. I watched his expression change, disbelief, then realization, then something deeper. Pain. I didn't know. His voice broke, and I believed him. Because not everyone in a lie knows they're part of it. Ashley tried, one last time, spinning words, twisting reality, reaching for control that no longer existed. But it was gone. All of it. The next morning, they left. Not as family, as consequences. And a few days later, the law finished what I had started. Charges filed. Evidence submitted. Truth made official. Because justice doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be undeniable. The house is quiet again. Not the empty kind of quiet, but something steadier, something that belongs to me. I walk through the room slowly, noticing what remains, what was never truly taken. The couch still angled the way Linda liked it. The light still falling across the floor in the late afternoon, just as she once described it. Some things can't be reorganized. Some things can't be erased. Her mug is gone. Shattered, reduced to fragments I'll never piece back together. But the truth is, it was never just about the mug. It was about what it represented. Memory, identity, ownership of a life I built, with someone who loved me enough to warn me, even after she was gone. I keep her letter close now, not as a reminder of fear, but as a reminder of clarity, because the hardest lesson wasn't discovering the betrayal. It was realizing how easily it had been hidden, behind reason, behind care, behind words that sounded right, and how long I had doubted myself. If something feels wrong, even when it looks right, even when everyone tells you it's fine, listen, not to the noise around you, but to the quiet voice inside you, the one that doesn't argue, doesn't explain, just knows. Protecting your family sometimes means protecting yourself first, setting boundaries, even when it hurts, seeing clearly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Kevin calls me now, more often than before. His voice is different, softer, more aware. And maybe, in a way, we both learned something we needed to learn. Not everything that calls itself family acts like it. But that doesn't mean family is lost. It just means you choose more carefully who gets to stand inside it. I stand in the kitchen again, coffee brewing, morning light stretching across the counter. Different cup, same hands, same life, reclaimed. And if there's one thing I know now, it's this. No one gets to decide what your life is worth, except you. So hold on to what matters. Question: what doesn't feel right? And never, ever, let anyone convince you that's your home, your memories, or your dignity are just old junk.